three of them?
Yeah.
That's too
What?
colors.
Anybody
Good
else?
colors.
What else do you see? Hello?
Certainly see three different styles.
There you go.
Yeah.
You're comparing it against my other medias. You're comparing it against, so I understand why people can make the comment of that it looks like somebody else did it, or it looks different, but frankly, I don't care. Because the only people that care for that are gallerists. And if you want to be in gallery and you want to have a show, they want you to look exactly like, they want you to be predictable, they want you to be that. And I'm not going to be a predictable artist. I'm going to paint and draw how I feel, and I'm going to express myself, and if that's in clay, photography, digital, paint, crumpled newspapers, I'm going to do it.
He and I have talked about this before, and actually the first week, didn't we?
Yeah.
We didn't look at all the things that he does, and I frankly haven't met anybody who does as many different things, not just different styles of painting, but digital and all kinds of stuff. Organizing the art world in here that he hadn't been involved in more than a year or so. I just said the first class, I asked him how he was going to deal with all that. I mean, that would be, but he's a different person. Now you're right that
I think what you're talking about is what classically you're taught academically you have to do to succeed in a gallery world. I'm self-represented, and I like my work, and I do different things, and I can do something representational, and I can do something abstract. I'm not going to be pigeonholed by being told that it looks like 5 different artists. No, it all came out of me. And, you know, at some point, maybe long after I'm dead, some curator will pull together all my works and talk about how they're so similar. And they will see how my markings in a black and white are similar to the markings in a computer drawing.
Yeah, the strokes are all William. You can make it out.
But I think when Alex says this about series, he's talking about getting engaged with whatever it is that you are creating, so you really can see different aspects of it, and so say, okay, I've done that painting of this guy here, and then I'm going to do another thing. You might find aspects of it that you hadn't even thought of that'll come to you. Really do. Really
Well, I understand what it means to do a series.
Yeah.
I'm just doing several of them all at the same time.
this may surprise you is.
And I always talk about the reason I do digital art and the reason I do painting is I'm also playing at the space in between those two things. I learn between the line work and the transparency and the opacity when I'm doing something on a computer versus when I'm trying to paint that. And it's much more physical to do something that you're painting than it is cerebrally doing the same thing with a stylus and a computer and a screen. You know, but the thought process is the same. And so I jump back and forth because I influence myself by, oh wow, I just did this really nice mark with a brush. How can I do that nice mark online?
But those are technique things instead of content. And my other comment is, when I'm talking about the 20-year thing, if you work in series for that length of time, chances are it'll be much a better time to spread out when you've gotten really good. And then you can spread out and handle that seemingly scattered approach, I think. That's what I see in painters that are read about or something.
But aren't you supposed to do landscape, still life, figures, and then you know you have to try all them out, all of them, and then decide this is what I really like, and maybe isn't that the whole transition in an artist's life? When you see Matisse or Picasso, they all have done at some point of time they have done all these.
But instead of using the materials as your stepping stone, almost all of the really good painters will paint, they'll study French Impressionism, paint with colored dots, then they'll paint Surrealism, and then, you know, different, all the periods. See, they do it by that, which is different way of thinking,
Yeah.
not different way of choosing materials, technique. Whereas Michael, technique.
Okay.
I mean, Marcel Duchamp is one of my favorite painters, and not painters so much, but hardest to understand too, by the way. But he painted through all of those things. Almost everybody did. And he ended up playing more chess. He gave up painting at some point. And he was married for a short period of time. And he loved to play chess. And one morning he woke up and his chess players were glued to the board, and she left.
So when you are telling me that I should decide on one body or one, what exactly are you telling me?
Do you
Like-
go ahead.
Like, should I do landscape? Should I do abstract? Should I do? I mean, what exactly?
Watch
are
my
you-
lips. You should do traditional realism, or you should do French Impressionism.
Okay.
See that you
Okay.
guys are all you're good at techniques because that's what you can focus in. Like Michael is. Michael is terrific. Now you're all dressed up and don't know where to go. You are very qualified technically. All of you are.
No, but I just started painting. It's only 4 or 5 years since I started, so I don't have.
Well, you did 12 one night.
She's productive, for sure.
But no, what I'm saying is that I haven't explored everything. That's
What if you're a German expressionist at heart and you can't do it? You keep trying to and you keep
Well, you
coming-
drop that and you do something else. That's the whole point.
That's what I have to do.
Yeah. Of course,
I
don't
don't
find
want
it.
to.
Just
Yes.
find out whether it's going to be right for you, and if it's not, skip it. I mean, when I became a transition from a boy to something of a man, I dated 2 or 3 girls, and I didn't like some of them, but then when I found her, that was it. And it might have been on the first date of the first girl, or any time. So, that's a
You
strange
know it.
analogy, but
You know,
We get to decide. Somebody
We do.
shouldn't tell us, don't do that because it won't be in your style. Don't do that because it doesn't match. You know, we're artists. That's what we do. We explore. We experiment. We, you know, and if I want to rub monkey shit on there and see what happens, I'm going to do it.
no, it's monkey poop. Now get
Monkey
that.
poop. And,
That one guy who uses
Who's
You
coffee.
know,
who's that artist who did that?
Uses his coffee.
You know, I think about that all the time.
I played with
Doing
that,
some
with coffee.
drawing with coffee. I think about all these things, and I think it's because we live in an age where everything is exposed to us as artists. Back then, artists got commissions and had to paint things realistically by the church and by the royalty. And then when they broke away from that and they either didn't need that money and they could paint what they wanted, that's when they started experimenting with breaking the rules. And right now, we don't have rules unless you're trying to also sell stuff. And I think there's a much different world of trying to sell your work to, in some cases, a public that wants something cutesy and wants something real and they want something they can understand versus maybe something that stretches their imagination. It takes the right person to come in and buy an abstract because they've got to feel something, they've got to do something versus a nice picture of a landscape, which they're like, oh yeah, I have a memory of that.
So this is, I mentioned this the first or second day, first day, and this is Bobby's specialty. Here's where aesthetic comes in. About, that person is not able to buy something complicated. They want to send in and see us, and their aesthetic is limited. So they need to broaden our aesthetic. Probably more important than painting at all is for us to be associated with each other like we're doing now. Which is the last time you did something like this? Talk about art together as a group.
Ages ago.
Yeah, it's good. But that
Yeah.
that advances your aesthetic. That is critical.
And it really does help to expose people to different art. I know they have their things and they say, oh, that reminds me of me when I was taking ballet or something. But then when they do get a chance to see something more, they actually like it. And my students that I have that were in, their fathers in the military or something, they saw this great art. Then they came in, they got into the class and they said, oh, now I get it. But they weren't looking at it, or they weren't able to look at it. My mother-in-law took a class on modern art, and she was typical Sumter. Well, I said, well, did you really enjoy it and get a lot of it? And she said, well, I took it, but I sure can't see what modern art's about.
It's too big of a jump. I remember after I studied art for 3 or 4 years, I left Florida where I was living and went to New England to try to find out what abstraction was. I didn't even understand that. So I got to New England and studied with some old realist painter,
But you taught that class one time, designing within the format, helping people to see that you could paint in a realistic style, but still not just do the image and that's all point and it's cute and it's like Thomas Kincaid. You could actually get that concept of design while you were doing something if you wanted to do painting.
Olivia?
The only reason the abstract watercolor I brought, it was left over. I think some of my other paintings used to sell, but that certainly wouldn't sell. And
The landscape watercolor?
yeah, that one doesn't read for anybody, I guess.
Well, it needs a little puppy dog or something.
Yeah, I know. It needs a little skill coming
So
down that slope.
But we're talking about aesthetics now, and we're talking about visually illiterate people. Now, I'm visually illiterate about lots of things, chemistry and lots of it. But it's true. And so Bobby's mother needed a little help. That's a big jump to go from traditional art to modernism.
It's my mother-in-law. I think my mother could have done it. Typical prejudice there.
Oh, yeah.